and we'll move on there. So thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
So Elizabeth Friedlander was born in 1903 in Berlin to a very culturally rich family for the time. Her father was a textile merchant and her mother was an amateur painter. So art and appreciation of the arts was common in her family at the time that she was born in 1903. At the very top left of this slide, you can see a family photograph, and Elizabeth is the little girl standing in the front with her sister being held by her parents, and it is the only photograph we know in existence of her and her family from her early years in Germany. And this selection of objects are from her training. When she was a young age, she was enrolled into the Berlin School of Arts, and she developed an aptitude for graphic design and typography, which she was educated in under the artist E.R. Weiss, who was an esteemed typographer at that time. While she was still in, and if we could move on there, please, Elaine, thank you. While she was still in art school, she was started to be employed on little commissions. So she designed book covers and little illustrations, particularly for the German magazine Die Dame, which was the women's magazine for ladies in the know at the time. And if you could pop on there, please, Elaine. She's at the time she was approached by a man named George Hartmann, who was with the Bayer Type Foundry in Frankfurt, with the option to come and work for them to help design typefaces when she finished her course in Berlin. And at this image that you see here was the view that she painted from her classroom in Berlin. This was the view straight out the window, and she has a little inscription there with the date 1928. Next slide, please. Thank you. The next three slides that you will see are her sketches for these little magazine illustrations that she was asked to produce. So these are original pencil, watercolor, and pen drawings, and they're teeny tiny. This little size of paper is only A5, and each one of these little drawings is just taped onto it. But she kept a copy of everything that she ever produced that she could carry with her. And if we could just go through the next two slides there for just to let people have a look at just the intricacy and the details of these drawings are gorgeous. And so while she was working for the Bayer Type Foundry, she was invited to design her own typeface. And this typeface is at the top of this little collage that I've created here. And as you can see, it's called Elizabeth. Now, at the time, the fashion for typefaces was that it would be named after your surname, but she produced this in the early 1930s during the rise of the Nazi regime and anti-fascism in Germany at the time. So Friedlander was a Jewish surname, and it was deemed that it wouldn't be acceptable by authorities. So she just created it under her own name, which would be called Elizabeth Antica, or just Elizabeth for those in English-speaking countries. And I think it's lovely because it is one of the first, if not, there's some discussion around this, but she was definitely one of the first women ever to produce a typeface. So it's quite nice that it's named just in her own name, Elizabeth. Then, as I said, the 1930s in Germany were not a good time to be a Jew. And as time went on, she found it more and more difficult to find work because of her religion. She did apply for the specific license that you had to have to work in Germany at the time, this permit, and she was refused. And the letter of refusal, she was told that as a non-Aryan, she lacked the necessary reliability and fitness to participate in the creation and dissemination of German cultural values, which can't have been a very nice thing to hear for someone of her talents. So she made the decision in 1936 to move to Italy. and she was allowed to walk so long as she didn't take up any political activities or be politically active. She learned Italy, she learned Italian quite fluently there, and this enabled her to find work with a publishing house called Mondadori, and one of her first commissions ever for those, you can see the draft of at the bottom of this little collage here, and this is an original watercolour hand-painted cover. So if you can move on there, please, Elaine. Thank you. And so these are another original samples of the colours book cover that you produced for Mondadori, and you get an idea of just the detail, but also the vibrant colours that they've managed to survive with, and they are gorgeous. And she kept all of these all of her life and cared for them, so they obviously meant a great deal. Her work meant a great deal to her. But unfortunately, this good times only lasted for 2 years, because in September 1938, the Italian government brought in their own set of anti-Semitic laws, and this threatened her with loss of the rights that she had and loss of her employment. So if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide there, please, Elaine. So and this is just a little example again of her work process. And the right hand side there, you can see she doodles different designs to see what would work, what wouldn't work, and the designs on the right would eventually become the outline of the cover for the Primo Libro, which is the little booklet on the bottom left there. And next slide there, please, Elaine. Thank you. So she had hoped to go from Italy to the United States, where the New York office of the Bauer Foundry had promised to give her employment. And what we have here in this little collage is, again, some of the book covers, just so you can appreciate the detail, but also some of the correspondence that she had with her employers in the Mondadori publishing house, and a friend that she made there called Walter Toscanini, who most people would know as a very eminent 20th century composer. And it was through Toscanini that she had hoped to get her visa to go to the United States. So this is just one of a number of correspondence back and forth between the two, as he tried his best to get her, to use his influence to get her entry into the country. But unfortunately, this didn't come to fruition. But she was, however, able to obtain a domestic servant permit to enter the United Kingdom instead, and she went to London with only her portfolio of works and a family heirloom, which is an 18th century cloth violin that her mother had given her when she left Berlin. And she would carry this with her also throughout her life. Next slide there, please, Elaine. Thank you. So as she is working to get herself settled in the United Kingdom, she made the acquaintance of a number of those in publishing and typography, most notably Francis Meynell, and you can see some of his letters to her. So in this little slide here, the bottom left-hand corner is the handwritten letter from Meynell to Elizabeth, and as you can see, he addressed her as "My dear Liz," so they were already great friends. And we also have a selection of other letters from the United States and from other benefactors that were trying to campaign on her behalf to get her either greater recognition in the United Kingdom or entry to the United States. But as it transpired through Francis Meynell in 1949, she was able to get employment with the Ministry of Defence within the Ministry of Information's Black Propaganda Unit. So she worked under a man called Cow, who's well known for his efforts, for his work in the war efforts. And in this department, she produced the false Wehrmacht and Nazi rubber stamps, false ration books, false passports, etc., for spies and for other counterintelligence during the war. Then, if we could get the next slide there, please, Elaine. Thank you. By the end of the war, she had managed to acquire a wide circle of friends as well as very good contacts in the printing and publishing world, and she decided to stay in Britain, and she became a nationalised citizen and anglicised the spelling of her name. And it is around this time that she was able to get employment with Penguin Books, and this again was helped through her acquaintance with Walter Toscanini. So the top left little draft there is her designs for one of Toscanini's record sleeves. And this gained her recognition for Penguin Books was she was commissioned to produce a special penguin for their 25th anniversary. And that little penguin is there in the middle right-hand side of the image. And right in the centre is a rare black and white photograph of her, and you can barely see it, the photo is tiny. But it's very indicative of the type of woman she was. She was very, very private. She let her work speak for itself, and she's no interest in courting any limelight. So that we have any photos of her at all is remarkable. And can we get the next slide there, please, Lynn? Thank you. So from her work with Penguin, she also went on to work for a group called Manor Type. She was doing typography for them, designs for them. To the top right-hand side is the design that she was working on for Manor Type. They didn't end up being commissioned, but you can get an idea into the meticulousness of the detail that she put into everything she did. And excuse me, down the bottom we have the finished little 25th anniversary penguin in all his glory, and also a little booklet that was sent out to congratulate Penguin Books and acknowledge her efforts in the designs for the anniversary. Get the next slide there, please, Elaine. Thank you. And so, as you can see, the little penguin went through a lot of iterations, but she also did play around with some designs for the pelican. The Pelican Books was a compatriot to Penguin at the time, and still is. But she also was commissioned by Penguin to be the sole designer of the run of printed music scores. So up the top left and in the middle there, you can see these her own final printed versions of all the different designs that she produced for Penguin. And if we can get the next slide there, please, Elaine. Thank you. It'll give you a great idea of the intricacy of the detail in these designs. So on the left is a series of the finished printed covers, and on the right that is a hand-drawn sample that she created herself as part of coming up with a design for a Brahms symphony, and just a gorgeous little just minute details in them. And if we get the next slide there, please, Elaine. Thank you. So as well as the work for Penguin, she also did some freelance work, or she was contracted out to design loads of different types of book covers and for various publication houses, book jackets, etc. And these are just an example of two that she produced in that time. Get the next slide there, please, Elaine. Thank you. And this is another two of those book jackets, just to get, you can see the richness of colour that she worked with, and just the detail that she would put into even the little roundel that's on the spine of the book on the right. That was all designed by her, just down to that detail. We get the next slide there, please, Elaine. Thank you very much. So as well as working for Penguin, she also took on a lot of private commissions at this time. She kept all of these little work designs for her portfolios. So this is the selection of designs that she produced for the Saxon Shoe Company on Oxford Street, the design for the National Restaurant Association Awards. The bottom right is a roundel of flowers that she would commissioned for the Times newspaper for the the title. And on the right is some potential designs for some new publishing house that was being established, and we're not sure if that ever came to fruition or not. Next slide there, please, Elaine. Thank you. And this is just another sample of those gorgeous little commissions that you had. So the top left is the Zodiac, and this was one of our own little pet projects that you like to just experiment with design to see what you could make of different topics, different subjects. On the right was the commission that you completed for the Shell Oil Company, which looked a bit more eco-friendly at the time. And another, that's the finished version, or in the middle of the Times newspaper's commissioned heads. A map of the world on the very bottom that was commissioned for a geography book. And Whitebridge Stout and Strong Ale, as far as we know, they're still going strong. But what interested me as well is this little pencil drawing that's on the right-hand side in the middle is her first interest in Irish design and Irish culture, and she's studying the design layouts of old pins, such as the Tara brooch, and what did they look like, how did they work, how did they sketch, and that's her own little pencils, what she's working it out for herself, and I think that's just a lovely little insight into her process. Next slide there, please, Elaine. Thank you very much. And this is just a little example of the other newspaper that she created the headings for. So that's the heading for the Daily Express with the little soldier ended up being the newspaper's heading well into the 1980s. So that's quite remarkable. Next slide there, please, Elaine. Thank you. In addition to the commercial, you would also take on some private commissions for families and companies and things. So this little drawing on the left was produced for an in-house pamphlet for the oxygen's company, a type of oil company at the time, and it was designed to show the offshore oil pipes coming in and out of the country. And on the right are two examples of family crests that she was commissioned to design for friends, mostly of Francis Meynell and compatriots. And they would be used when they were putting them in their books, their libraries. So each book would have ex libris and then the family crest. And that was a lot of her bread and butter work as well at this time in the mid 20th century. Next slide there, please, Elaine. Thank you. So after she'd been working in the UK for about 30 years, she made the move to the United States, to Ireland, where she moved to Kinsale in West Cork. And she moved there because her partner, Alessandro McMahon, whom she met when she was in Italy, and there's a nice little photo of the two of them there at the bottom. He was very interested in fishing and the practice and studying of fish, and Kinsale is a great place for the fishing harbour. So they both moved there, and she started doing more commissioned work on traditional Irish design to sell locally. So she has designs for the Kinsale Sock Club. So you can see the little sock design as well as studies of different socks. And she's done a lot of population and work on Irish texts, Celtic design, Celtic braids. In the middle on the right hand side is the design of St. Bridget's cross, which is kind of looking at how they were woven and how could she translate that into a drawing form. Next slide there, please, Elaine. Thank you. So herself and Alessandro lived, he passed away in 1970s, and They didn't actually live together. They lived in two separate cottages that were next door to each other. And the collection is full of the correspondence back and forth in English and Italian. And it's mostly how the cat was, and did he remember to feed the cat. And so this last slide is just a selection of the Celtic design that she produced while she was living in Kinsale. And they would have been printed on leather to make little bookmarks and little keepsakes, and they were sold in the shop in Kinsale that's still a gift shop today. I've included in this some of her drawing implements, her protractors, etc., because the collection has all of those as well. There was a little photograph of her wearing a traditional Irish cape that was gifted to her by a local in Kinsale, and she was very proud of it. And down the very bottom left is a season's greetings card made by her. So anyone that knew her, that if you gave her a gift, if you made her acquaintance, you would always receive a handmade thank you note, Christmas card, anything like that in return. So she was just a very kind and generous lady. I gave this presentation on her down in Kinsale back in 2018, and I actually met a lady who knew her, and she had acquired a big box of her drawings and her bits and pieces that had been given to her before she passed away in the 1980s, and she kindly donated that here for us to add to the collection. So that was a real boon. You never know what's going to happen. So Elizabeth passed away in 1984 in Cork in the CUH of cancer, unfortunately. She left behind a niece and nephew, but they have since passed away themselves with no children, so it's unfortunate that that is the end of the Friedlander line. I had hoped that we might be able to track down some living relatives, but I haven't been able to so far. And I hope you enjoyed this and it was informative, and if anyone has any questions.